The billionaire CEO discovered his long-lost daughter was his rival's top executive. Harrison Blackwell stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office on the 52nd floor of Blackwell Tower in Manhattan. At 62 years old, he was worth $8 billion. His company, Blackwell Industries, dominated the renewable energy sector across North America. But tonight, as he looked out over the glittering cityscape, Harrison felt hollow. 30 years ago, he'd made a choice. His college girlfriend, Rebecca Torres, had told him she was pregnant. They were both 23, broke and ambitious. Harrison had just been accepted into a prestigious MBA program at Stanford. Rebecca was starting her career as a journalist in Boston. Before we continue this incredible story, where are you watching from? Drop your country or city in the comments below. I can't do this, Harrison had said, his voice cold with fear disguised as pragmatism. I'm not ready to be a father. This would destroy everything we've worked for. Rebecca's eyes had filled with tears. So what are you saying? I'm saying, I think you should handle this on your own. I can't be part of it. Those were the last words they ever spoke. Rebecca disappeared from his life. Harrison threw himself into his studies, then his career, building Blackwell Industries from nothing. He married twice, divorced twice, had no other children. And every year on what he calculated would have been his child's birthday, he wondered. Did Rebecca keep the baby? If so, was it a boy or a girl? Where were they now? 6 months ago, a new competitor emerged that was eating into Blackwell Industries' market share with alarming speed. The company was called Torres Energy Solutions, and they were innovative, aggressive, and seemingly one step ahead at every turn. They just secured the Henderson contract, Harrison's COO, Marcus Flynn, announced during their morning meeting. That's the third major deal we've lost to them this quarter. Harrison's jaw tightened. Who runs this company? The CEO is a woman named Sienna Hayes. She's only 32, but she's a genius. Stanford MBA, worked at Goldman Sachs for 5 years, then started Torres Energy 3 years ago. They've grown at an unprecedented rate. Sienna Hayes, Harrison repeated. Why is the company called Torres Energy if her name is Hayes? Marcus shrugged. Maybe it's her mother's maiden name? Partners? I'm not sure. But boss, we need to take her seriously. She's not just lucky, she's legitimately brilliant. Harrison felt something stir in his chest. Torres. Could it be? No. It was a common enough name. Just a coincidence. But he couldn't shake the feeling. Set up a meeting, Harrison said. I want to meet this Sienna Hayes face to face. The meeting was arranged at a neutral location, a high-end restaurant in Midtown. Harrison arrived early, which was unusual for him. He was nervous, though he couldn't quite explain why. When Sienna Hayes walked in, Harrison's breath caught in his throat. She was striking tall with dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, sharp cheekbones, and eyes that seemed to see everything. But it wasn't her beauty that stopped him. It was something about her features. The shape of her nose. The set of her jaw. The way she carried herself with quiet confidence. She looked like someone he used to know. Mr. Blackwell, Sienna said, extending her hand. Her handshake was firm, professional. Thank you for suggesting this meeting. Ms. Hayes. Please, call me Harrison. Then call me Sienna. They sat down, and for the first hour, they discussed business. Sienna was everything Marcus had said, sharp, innovative, unafraid to challenge conventional thinking. But Harrison found himself distracted, studying her face, looking for, what? Proof of an impossible theory. I have to ask, Harrison finally said, setting down his wine glass. Your company name. Torres Energy. Why Torres? Sienna's expression shifted slightly, just a flicker of something vulnerable beneath her professional mask. It was my mother's name, she said quietly. Rebecca Torres. She passed away 2 years ago from cancer. I named the company after her. The room seemed to tilt. Harrison gripped the edge of the table. Rebecca Torres, he whispered. From Boston. Sienna's eyes narrowed. Yes. How did you? I knew her, Harrison said, his voice hoarse. A long time ago. We dated in college. Sienna stared at him, and Harrison saw her making calculations, connecting dots. Her face went pale. What year? She asked. We broke up in 1993. I was born in March 1994, Sienna said slowly. My mother never told me who my father was. She said he wasn't in the picture, that he'd made it clear he didn't want to be involved. The silence between them was deafening. We should get a DNA test, Harrison said, his hands shaking, before we jump to conclusions. I already know, Sienna said, her voice tight with emotion. I've seen pictures of my mother from college. I look like her, but I have your eyes, your nose, and the timing. She stood abruptly. I need to leave. Sienna, wait, for what? She turned back to him, and Harrison saw tears streaming down her face. For 30 years, I wondered about you. Who you were. Why you didn't want me. My mother worked 3 jobs to put herself through graduate school while raising me alone. She never dated. Never remarried. She gave everything to make sure I had opportunities. I didn't know, you didn't want to know. Sienna's voice cracked. She told you she was pregnant, and you walked away. Do you have any idea what that did to her? What it did to me? Harrison stood, desperate to explain, to apologize, to somehow bridge the chasm of 30 years. I was young and stupid and terrified. I thought I was protecting my future, but I destroyed something infinitely more valuable. Sienna, I have thought about you every single day for 30 years. Thoughts don't raise a child, Harrison. Thoughts don't pay for food or school supplies or hold you when you're scared at night. She grabbed her coat. I need time, she said. Don't contact me. Don't come to my office. I'll reach out when I'm ready. If I'm ever ready. And then she was gone, leaving Harrison alone with the wreckage of his choices. Harrison couldn't let it go. He hired a private investigator, not to intrude on Sienna's life, but to understand the life he'd missed. The report came back 2 weeks later, and reading it broke Harrison's heart. Rebecca had kept the baby, working as a freelance journalist while pregnant. She'd given birth alone in a Boston hospital. 4 years, she'd struggled financially, moving from a tiny apartment in a rough neighborhood to slightly better places as her career progressed. Sienna had been a brilliant child, skipped a grade, won science fairs, earned a full scholarship to MIT. She'd graduated top of her class, then gotten her MBA from Stanford, the same school Harrison had chosen over his family. The investigator included photographs. Sienna at age 5, gap-toothed and grinning, holding a trophy for a spelling bee. Sienna at 12, serious and focused at a science fair. Sienna at 18 in a cap and gown, standing next to Rebecca, who looked tired but proud. Harrison wept as he looked through them. He'd missed everything. First steps. First words. School plays. Graduations. All of it gone, irretrievable. But the most gut-wrenching detail was this. When Rebecca was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, she'd lasted only 6 months. Sienna had taken a leave of absence from Goldman Sachs to care for her mother full dash time and Rebecca's final days. According to hospital records the investigator had obtained, she'd asked Sienna to promise her something, build something extraordinary. Show the world what we're capable of. And don't waste your life waiting for someone who walked away. Torres Energy Solutions had launched 4 months after Rebecca's death. 6 weeks passed before Sienna called. I got a DNA test done, she said without preamble. I used a strand of hair from your coat that you left at the restaurant. It's not admissible in court, obviously, but it was enough for me. And? Harrison asked, though he already knew. You're my father. Silence. I'd like to meet again, Sienna continued. Same restaurant. Tomorrow at 7. I'll be there. This time, when Sienna arrived, she looked different. Still professional, still guarded, but with something softer around her eyes. They ordered food neither of them would eat. I've been angry for 6 weeks, Sienna began. Furious, actually. But I've also been thinking. My mother taught me that holding on to anger only hurts yourself. And I realized something. I don't want to waste any more years on what wasn't. Harrison leaned forward. What are you saying? I'm saying that I'm willing to try. To get to know you. To see if there's something here. Worth building. She paused. But I need you to understand something. You don't get to be Dad. That title has to be earned, if it's ever earned at all. Right now, you're Harrison. A stranger who happens to share my DNA. I understand, Harrison said, his voice thick with emotion. And I'm grateful for even this chance. Sienna, I know I can never make up for what I took from you, from your mother. But I want to try to be someone worthy of your time. Then let's start with honesty, Sienna said. Tell me about yourself. Not the billionaire CEO. The person. What do you care about? What keeps you up at night? Over the next 3 months, Harrison and Sienna met regularly. Coffee on Tuesday mornings. Lunch on Fridays. Long walks through Central Park on Sunday afternoons. Harrison learned that Sienna was passionate about renewable energy because of her mother. Rebecca had covered environmental issues as a journalist and had instilled in her daughter a sense of responsibility to the planet. Sienna learned that Harrison's drive to build Blackwell Industries had been fueled partly by guilt, as if accumulating wealth and success could somehow retroactively justify his earlier abandonment. It doesn't work that way, Sienna told him during one walk. Success doesn't erase mistakes. But acknowledgement and change do count for something. Harrison also learned that. Sienna was dating someone, a marine biologist named Colin Reeves. They'd been together for 2 years, and it was serious. I'd like you to meet him, Sienna said one day. If you're comfortable with that. I'd be honored. The dinner with Colin was surprisingly easy. Colin was warm, funny, and clearly adored Sienna. Watching them together, Harrison felt a bittersweet ache. This is what love looks like, he thought. What partnership looks like. Everything I ran from when I was young. But their personal progress hit a snag when business interfered. Both Blackwell Industries and Torres Energy Solutions had bid on the same massive contract, a 10-year deal to provide renewable energy infrastructure for the entire state of California. It was worth $2 billion and would determine market dominance for the next decade. We need to talk about this, Sienna said during their next meeting. Her voice was tense. Agreed, Harrison said. This is awkward. It's more than awkward. If Torres Energy gets this contract, it establishes us as the industry leader. If Blackwell Industries gets it, we might not survive the loss of momentum. Harrison nodded slowly. And if we were just competitors, I'd fight you with everything I have. But we're not just competitors anymore. No, Sienna agreed. We're not. So what do we do? Harrison was quiet for a long moment, then said something that surprised even himself. What if we partnered? Sienna blinked. What? What if instead of competing for the California contract, Blackwell Industries and Torres Energy Solutions submitted a joint bid? Your innovation combined with my infrastructure and resources. We'd be unstoppable. That's... Sienna trailed off, thinking. That's actually brilliant. But Harrison, are you sure? You'd be giving up control of a massive project. I'd be sharing control, Harrison corrected. With someone I trust. Someone brilliant. Someone who happens to be my daughter. Sienna's eyes filled with tears. That's the first time you've called me that. I know, Harrison said softly. I didn't want to presume. But Sienna, if you'll let me, I'd like to try to be your father. Not to replace the years we lost, but to build something new. Sienna stood and walked around the table. For a moment, Harrison thought she was leaving. Instead, she wrapped her arms around him in a hug. Okay, she whispered. Okay, Dad. The joint bid won the California contract, stunning the industry. Blackwell Industries and Torres Energy Solutions formed a new partnership entity called BT Renewable Solutions, the initial standing for both Blackwell Torres and Building Tomorrow. At the press conference announcing the partnership, Harrison and Sienna stood side by side as colleagues. But those who looked closely could see the deeper connection. The way Harrison's hand rested protectively on Sienna's shoulder, the way Sienna smiled at him with genuine affection. 6 months after that, Harrison walked Sienna down the aisle at her wedding to Colin. It was the honor of his life. And when Sienna gave birth to a daughter 18 months later, she asked Harrison if he'd like to be called Grandpa. Standing in the hospital room, holding his granddaughter for the first time, Harrison understood something fundamental. You can't change the past, but you can choose how you show up for the future. Her name is Rebecca, Sienna said softly. After my mom. But her middle name is Harrison. After you. Harrison couldn't speak through his tears. He simply held his granddaughter close. And silently promised her what he'd failed to promise her mother. I will be here. For all of it. I will show up. Some stories don't have happy endings. But some stories have new beginnings. This was one of those.